Welcome back to Tech Insights with Dylan White. It's Saturday. It's day 5, I want to say, maybe day 6 even, of our journey. Again, I just want to say thanks for the positive feedback, the good comments. It's been a long week. I think it's been 3 days since I made a video. But I post every day on LinkedIn, so been consistent all around. Super excited. One thing I want to talk about is just the something like feedback I got on social media, Twitter, of course, because I only really post on Twitter and or X and LinkedIn. I want to say this that nobody will ever know everything. One thing I think that as I become a manager and a leader of people, and then also just through my own journey, is that you can't always expect yourself to know everything because then what's the journey about? If you know everything, you might as well check out. Be sitting on a beach sipping, a cold Corona or a puffy beach drink with a pineapple in it or out of the pineapple. So I think the more you start realizing that you'll never know everything, there'll always be something for you to learn, the better you'll be. I think one thing that I've been trying to be adamant with not only my peers, but junior team members, and then also just people on the web is you have to appreciate going and getting the knowledge. You don't appreciate going and getting the knowledge, and you're just one of those people that's like, hey, you give me the answer, and I'll take it from there. It's not the journey. The journey is your journey. The journey is you figuring it out. You understand how you got to the solution, and then being able to comprehend and take any of the feedback that you get in between. I think that's really important. I think as you build your knowledge up in the space, it also allows you to not only do exactly those things, but take more out of the feedback you get. It's very hard to take feedback if you never receive feedback. That's one of the things I had to learn, not only in getting feedback myself, but also giving feedback. Some people have never received feedback, so they don't know how to take feedback. So it's been a long evolution for me on those fronts. So when I do these videos every few days, between all the content, whether it's articles or just posts and random shenanigans, I want to make the first few minutes just about having some real connection and talking through those ideas and things as they come up, especially over the long weeks as they've been for me. Uh, so I want to say again, I appreciate you guys. We're going to dive into a little video around Azure Virtual Desktop, things I just didn't know. So I'm studying for the certification. Not gonna lie, I'm struggling, getting networking, whipping my butt. But we're gonna get there. I got a couple more days. I left it a little late, so I have another cert following right up on the back end of this that we'll dive into too. So it's gonna keep me busy. So I'll see you guys on the other side. We're gonna jump into some AVD. Let's get it. All right, guys. Now I promise you, I will not be the greatest of all time, John Saville himself, as we dive into this Azure Virtual Desktop reference architecture. But I will put my own spin on it, and I will tell you guys why I think looking at reference architecture and why understanding different elements of certain aspects of services, and especially cloud services, especially technology, as you understand them and understand the foundations that go into them, it makes you even more capable, right? I think for us, especially me, as I got so far, right, in many different aspects, understanding, going back and learning the basics of the tools has helped me to further grasp different elements and troubleshoot along the way. I don't have to troubleshoot a lot anymore, right? That's not an aspect of my job that I do every day. I'll talk about my job again later down the road. I want to point out that Microsoft Azure, I'm not privy to the AWS and Google Cloud level. The Azure reference architectures, if you ever just looking to understand what a service is, Google the service name plus reference architecture. You should be able to pull a diagram just like this to see all the underneath elements under the hood of that service that you're looking up. So Azure Virtual Desktop, again, is a virtualization environment, right? So a lot of organizations will use Azure Virtual Desktop to serve up on-premises applications that have moved to the cloud to serve up um, uh, anywhere from applications to serve up database, right? It could be many different tools and elements for businesses and business processes. A lot of people are moving to Azure Virtual Desktop to get off of what's known as on-premises remote desktop services. It allows people to go to the cloud faster, allow people to use resources spread across and remove servers from on-premises. And just remove, again, that need for on-premises hardware. That just makes another element more difficult, right? Again, they're just going to use an end user computing device, right? usually known as a thin client. It's a whole other conversation for another day. I try to do a couple reviews on thin clients if I can get my hands on some, and we'll talk through them. But Azure Virtual Desktop is the next certification on my plan, so let's dive into some reference architecture. So on the far left, what we're going to see is a really cool, diagram, right? Is how is users, right? User endpoints. That, again, thin clients. It could be cheap personal computers that they can log into just over the web, right? And web login will give you access to Azure Virtual Desktop straight over HTTPS, and how it's served up. We'll talk through that in elements of pieces, right? But then in this box, right, that's the internet. User goes over the internet and connects it to the back end of Azure. That's where they're going to get served, right? So users are going to connect into Enter ID, right? That's how their identity, right? That's the whole identity, whether it's for MFA, all those pieces, right? And Microsoft Defender for Cloud, that's what MDC with the lock stands for, right? Well, is taking those logs and taking the analyses, right? Role-based access control decides where users can go, right? Azure Monitor in the background logging all the different telemetry around the session. We talk about what sessions are later. Again, this is all around reference architecture, showing all the different pieces that goes into it, right? If we work our way, again, left to right, of this diagram, we can see that we're going to work our way into what's known as the web access, right? The virtual desktop control plane, which includes web access, gateway, broker, and diagnostics all around that, right? When we're again working to our right, we see Azure Virtual Desktop Management Plane, right? This is where the desktop takes place, right? So it's all based on the workspace, which includes an application group, which includes Azure Virtual Desktop Remote Desktop Protocol property, right? And a host pool on the back end. Host pool are the machines that are served up, okay? And through that, right, you can either have a personal pool, so everybody gets a dedicated workstation, or you can have what's known as a pooled pool, right? Double entendre a little bit. But basically, that means that you have a group of users that all have access to one machine, right? So me, Jane, Austin, whatever, right? Three of us connect to one machine, shared resource, reduced cost. Simple as that, right? Individual resource, triple the cost, however many machines can serve up the application. Maybe an application can do 4 users per machine, right? Whereas if you can have an individual, 4x the cost, blah, blah, blah. You get where I'm going. All right. Then you have a scaling plan. You can do schedules. Hey, our users, we need 6 machines from 8 to 5, but we only need 2 machines after 5. Something like that. Right. And then working our way across again, right? We can see all these different elements. One thing Microsoft does really well is they label each and every single one. We'll walk through what those labels mean, whatnot. But right through that, you have spokes, right, and hubs, but we have session hosts, right, which are pooled. We have a network security group, which is what the NSG stands for, network access. And you have key vaults on the outside that are controlling all those credentials, right? We're working our way again downwards, right? You have Azure storage that back ends for those users, right? So you have file shares, right, which is where all the data is stored, users and other data, correct, right? You could have a accounting file share, whatever you want your users to access, right? And all that is stored again in Azure on the Azure file share, right? Even the user profile stored in known as FS Logics. We'll do a walkthrough around what that is later. And then how we provide our Azure images, right? Even your desktop is an image, right? Azure gets those from what's known as the Azure Compute Gallery, and you have a VM image definition, and then those templates, right? Walk through how to do all those templates and whatnot in a different video. But again, working our way back to the left, you get the connectivity, right? Our connectivity for these users, right? If you look at the office location, right, all goes through what's known as a VPN gateway to an Azure firewall, right? And you have custom DNS, all backed by a DNS zone and DDoS protection. For those of you who don't know what DDoS stands for, it's a distributed denial of service attack, right? We're protecting our servers, workstations, users, all of our information from a distributed denial of service attack, right? One of the main attacks that Microsoft even gets done by, right? So again, working our way left to right, our users connected to Azure, right, with Enter ID, Defender for Cloud, all working in the background to get into the virtual desktop control plane, right, which is doing web access, brokering services to our back end, host pools, whether that's individual or a pooled pool, right, all backed by scaling plans, Key Vault services to protect our credentials, Spoken Net for being our virtual network, all into storage accounts that are serving up user profiles at scale, right? Giving us resource access through interconnect and identities to our backend, right? And all that gives you all types of awesome things. All right, so let's click out of this so you can see what the ABCD Microsoft does a really good job, right, of breaking down these components. So, right, A is Azure Storage Services, right? B, connectivity hubs, right? C is a spoke. D was the control plane. Again, it gives us the break. And then it walks through each and every piece, right? With also logical architectures, which for me, I'm very much a kinetic learner, very much more of a visual learner, right? If I'm not just going to do it, I need to see it. If I can't see it, this isn't the Polar Express. I can't just imagine it, right? We're not talking about Santa Claus here. Right? I need to see and feel and touch and do. Just the way my brain works. So this is how we talk about reference architectures. This is why we look at them, because also think about, we just went through, let's count them out together, right? Endpoints, we just went through Enter ID, Defender for Cloud, role-based access control, Azure Monitor, Azure Firewall, VPN gateways, DNS, AVD on its own, virtual is backed by virtual machines, AVD scaling plans, Key Vault, Azure file shares, which is storages, 6, Azure Compute Gallery 7, Interconnect 8, ADDS, not, but you might as well times that by 4 because ADDS is like 16 to 20 different services on its own. Don't even want to talk about that. Uh, so, I mean, you're talking, we've introduced you as an individual by a reference architecture to almost 30 different services, right? It scales very quickly underneath, right? We didn't even talk about what bash and subnets are, what bashing is used for. So you're talking 31 different possible services for you to go into and learn and scale up your knowledge. And people to tell me, right, as a leader and as a mentor and when I'm coaching people, hey, I have no idea where to start, where to study. I tell them, hey, what's something that you want to learn, right? You say you want to learn cloud, you want to learn Azure, what is something that you want to go deeper on, right? Whether you're in customer success, whether you're, just a what we call knowledge worker and you're working in retail, right? When you go log into your retail device, plug in somebody's information, scan their credit card, enter their information into a coupon tracking system. What are all those things, right? How are you using things in your day to day? Maybe you're in data analysis or business analyst, right? You want to move to the cloud, whatever it may be. How can we transition your career to something you want to do, right? Whatever it may be. And this is how I start getting people interested in and start to line up what they should learn. So, again, reference architectures are very amazing. I'm going to put a link to this in the video and a whole bunch of different reference architectures for you to go look at. I'm going to see you on the other side for a little bit more of a conversation. But hopefully, learning about reference architecture, especially from Azure, has got you a little bit more interested today. That's the goal on a Saturday. Cheers. All right. So you made it to this part. This is the end. This is us talking through the day. Just a bunch of people, hopefully, just talking and helping each other get through the day so that we have in the world. Now, what I do want to say is that I talked about it a little bit last month, right? When I started back up. Talked a bit about it last time we talked a couple days ago. But June, right? May, National Mental Health Awareness Month. June, Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. I want to take the end just to talk about some stats and what I think can help us as a society, help men make it a little bit easier in the day to day. And as a man, I have a little bit to say there, whatever it may be. Now, what I will say is that in the United States, we as a whole struggle with communication, just in general, men, women, other, whoever. We struggle to come out and just talk about our feelings and talk about the way it is of the world. Maybe whether it's the way we were raised, whether it's what we see, whether it's how we go about living. I will say I was just at a kids softball game a couple weeks ago. Right, quick story before I dive into some statistics, just as a funny, right, just to talk about it. Right, I was there with not only my family, friends, friends from out of town. Right, me and my friend from out of town, two guys. Right, both in our late 20s, early 30s. That's myself. Right, we hug, right? As a guy, I'm a big hugger, big affectionate guy. And right, I get these two little kids walk by, right, two little boys, and a group of six going by, and the two boys stop cold in their tracks and they're like, "Ew, you're hugging," right? And I start laughing, right? Me and my friend start just laughing hysterically. We're like, "Duh, right? Boys hug. Who cares?" It's just me and my German voice. What you gonna say about it, right? We go. I even hug him again. I say, "What? Were you raised in a barn?" And then they're like, "Ew," and they start going to their dad. I just laughing. I was like, that's just how they're raised, right? They just see that. I think so often as guys, like you'll see guys dap, like you see guys, give a good knock, whatever it may be. But rarely do you see guys just hug, right? Even as friends. I hug all my friends. You just never know what the world's going to do. I think not only the way I was raised, what I've seen in life, and how I've seen it in life, how I've seen people come and go, just makes me a little different, right? I think as I've also opened up through my own conversations, whether it's with friends, whether it's with family, whether it's mentors, peers, juniors, again, just in life, like as you start to open up, you start to understand that people sometimes the hug goes a long way, right? That conversation, right? We saw this TikTok going around where guys are calling other guys to tell them good night, right? I thought it was one of the funniest things ever. But that's so rare. That's so rare we have an element where as friends and guys ourselves, we don't check in on each other. We just don't. I'm notoriously bad. Everybody knows that if you have one friend in your phone that you're not close to, that you don't talk to every day, and you just know they're not going to pick up for you, call that person. I'm notoriously that person. All right, put $1 million on it, Dylan isn't going to answer. I've tried to change that over the last few months, and then especially going forward, I've been very adamant that that will change. So don't make me that front. You'll lose a lot. Um, but what I will say is the statistics don't lie. We as men, we struggle. We struggle opening up to each other. We struggle opening up to those around us. I'm looking at some of the stats now, right? Men are 3 times more likely to become alcohol depressed, right? It's just a way of life, right? Whether it's, one beer a night turns into three beers a night turns into one glass of whiskey at night, one glass of whiskey turns into 3 glasses of whiskey, right? It's a slippery slope, right? Just like guys are more likely to be addicted to drugs, right? Guys are 4 times more likely to die of an overdose. Right? Looking at some of these stats by Discovery, right? I'm gonna post this link as well, right? Right. Men are more likely to use high suicides of high lethality suicide methods, right? Which isn't right, like right? It's the others, right? When we talk about things like as men, like we are much less likely to use tears, right? We're feelings of guilt, right? Like that's just not who we are, right? As men, right? We a lot of times like, say, suck it up. Boys don't cry. Come on, life ain't like that, right? Like one thing I'll say is somebody that's a survivor, somebody that has been there. It's too short. It's too short. So if I can be that one person that helps you say, "Made it to tomorrow," I love it. I love it. 75% of suicides in the United States will be a man, right? In the length of this excerpt, as I do this, right, in 5 minutes, we're talking about this. 5 men have died of suicide. Every minute, a man around you will die of suicide. And that's not a statement, that's a fact, right? And a lot of times I tell people opinions form facts. But facts, right, when it's done by statistics and done by outside studies, facts say 5 men just died, just killed themselves, just removed themselves from the world by choice. Right? It's crazy. All right, on a little lighter note, for those that didn't know before somebody just came and asked me for their phone, I have 4 daughters. 3 of them talk, none of them knock. So here we are. Again, lighter note, if I wasn't here as a survivor, those 4 girls wouldn't have been here either. It's not something I take lightly. Right? I get help every single week. I have a couple of therapists that I can talk to anytime. I have a group I can call into at any time. I also have hotlines, right? Like they're out there. Please use them, right? If you are looking for a group, if you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. Uh, I think for us as men, I'll leave you on this, is just talk, right? Whether it's your mother, whether it's your father, whether it's your sister, your brother, your friend, your neighbor, whether it's just a local pub, right? Bartender, I don't really care. Just talk, right? Start a conversation. Start looking into yourself, right? Why, right? Because life is way too short. And I'll leave you on this. Right? As a person that just loves people, loves to be around people. If you need anything, please don't stop to holler. Right? So, with that being said, thanks for coming to another episode of Tech Insights with Dylan White. Hopefully, you learned a little bit about cloud. Hopefully, you got a good talk about life. And cheers to tomorrow.